House File Number 3328, number 4 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to claims against the state, the first engrossment.
To the bill, the author, the gentleman from Dodge, Representative Quam.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. This is the annual claims bill with the addition of 3 exonerations. And there is an amendment that's a minor correction, so it would have it in the same form as the Senate.
There is an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Quam moves to amend House File Number 3328, the first engrossment. The amendment is coded A16 1114.
The gentleman from Olmsted, Representative Quam, to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. As you can see, it's very short. There was a more or less a revisor correction that made it in on the Senate bill, and we're just taking care of that now.
Discussion to the amendment. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion prevails. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File Number 3328, as amended.
Discussion to the bill. The gentleman from Ramsey, Representative Lesh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, it's been several years now that we brought forward this bill. Originally, 2 years ago, you all voted, well, those of you that were here, voted to pass the Exonerated Prisoners Remedies Act. That bill set forth a rubric by which MMB would look at these individuals who were imprisoned, they were later exonerated, and what they qualified for in terms of being paid as a amount of money that would not necessarily compensate them, but be some level of remedy. And I want you to think about what would happen if you spent time in prison for a crime for which you were exonerated. Literature is rife with examples of people, innocent people who went to jail. How does a government compensate someone for using a power against them, the most powerful, arguably the most powerful weapon that government has aside from death, the death penalty? How do we compensate someone when we find out, oops, we did the wrong thing? Now, these are cases for which people agree. Prosecutors, law enforcement, defense, the judge agree that they were exonerated for this. And specifically in this case, Michael Hansen, Kuo-Fong Lee, and Roger Olson. Now, when these 3 men spent time in prison and had horrible stories about what happened to them in prison, about the things that they experienced or they didn't experience. Kuo-Fong Lee, the birth of his youngest child occurred while he was in prison. I won't even tell you the stories of Michael Hansen and Roger Olson. But the rubric that we passed 2 years ago laid out clearly the hoops that these men had to jump through in order to be compensated, and they did it. They completed it. And it was enshrined in Representative Quam's bill that we have here today. This is the final step that we have, other than the Senate getting their act together over there, in making sure that we get this passed and see some semblance of justice for these men who spent time in our prison system that were exonerated. And I ask for a green vote.
Discussion to the bill is amended. The clerk will take the roll on the bill as amended. The clerk will close the roll. There being 127 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed as amended and its title agreed to.